Welcome to B Movie Club. I'm your host Kevin. This week we'll be discussing the 1996 comedy, horror, action, thriller, crime film From Dusk Till Dawn, starring George Clooney, Quentin Tarantino, Harvey Keitel, Juliette Lewis, Cheech Marin, Salma Hayek. The list goes on and on. For those of you joining us for the first time, each week on the B Movie Club, I discuss certain guilty pleasures and forgotten classics of the past. You can go ahead and reach us on our page on Facebook, Original B Movie Club. Give us the big thumbs up. You can also go to our page on YouTube, Kevin D. That's Me. Subscribe, it's totally free. You can also follow me on Twitter at the B Movie Club. This way you'll get all my latest updates whenever I posted a new video and anything else kind of witty I'd like to say, you'll be the first to know. So there you have it. Don't forget to spread the word. Tell your friends, enemies, strangers on the street, whoever you want to tell, okay? From Dusk Till Dawn. In this movie, Seth Gecko, played by George Clooney, is kind of a ruthless bank robber type. He's been recently broken out of prison by his psychotic younger brother Richie, sadly played by Quentin Tarantino. They're on a statewide killing spree, trying to get out of the country with their ill-gotten gains. They're trying to get all the way to Mexico, get to the border where they have some kind of a contact down there that'll get them safe passage to some kind of paradise place for a percentage of their loot, I guess, essentially. Along the way, we quickly discover that while Seth is kind of he's a bank robber, he's a killer, he also has kind of an ethic. He doesn't kill people he doesn't have to. He's not a psycho. Sadly, his younger brother Richie is that. He's some sort of a crazed sex criminal on the fact that he hears voices and sees things that aren't necessarily going on. And seems to have no compunction about just murdering innocent people. So this is a bad thing. Okay? They clash over this from time to time. They realize they're going to have a difficult time getting across the border. So what do? They go ahead and they hijack a small family, basically take over their Winnebago and take them hostage. The family is led by Harvey Keitel. He plays basically a defrocked Baptist minister who's having a crisis of faith, essentially. His wife recently died and he's uncertain about his place in the world and blah, blah, blah. He's with his children, I guess. Juliette Lewis plays his younger daughter, and then he has, I guess, an adopted son that is also along for the ride. So there you go. So there's that issue, okay? We've got to get across the border. If we don't get across the border, if you do anything bad, the Gecko brothers are going to kill you, so you better play along. So they get to the border. They manage to trick their way across. Hey, cool, we're on Easy Street. The Gecko brothers decide, you know what, you're going to be with me until we get to the bar. And at that point, we'll have a drink and then I'll let you go. I have to meet my contact at this crazy bar I've never been to. He's supposed to meet us there at dawn. Until then, we'll kick back and enjoy the show. The bar is kind of I don't know what it is exactly. It's a biker trucker bar / bordello, house of ill repute, a strip club. It really covers all the bases, so it's covered. Unfortunately, what we discover when they pull up is that it's meant to be strictly a biker trucker bar, which I don't know. They have a membership rule. I don't know what it is. They don't want to let the Gecko brothers in, so they fight their way in, beat up, I guess he's the bouncer, the barker, whatever he is, beat him up, walk in there. The bartender doesn't want to serve them because they're not bikers and truckers. Evidently, their clientele solely consists of shiftless bikers and fugitive truckers. I can't explain it. I mean, nothing wrong if you're a biker or a trucker out there. Don't come looking for me. You're good people. But they seem to have a very narrow view of who they want to serve, evidently. So he's about to get into a fight with the bartender and the bouncer when Harvey Keitel reveals that, hey, I drive a Winnebago, which you have to have a trucker's license to do that, so I'm a trucker, so, okay. It's all good. There are dancing girls, they're dancing around. This place has an interesting kind of ambiance because there's neon signs everywhere, making it look kind of like Vegas, but the building is kind of carved out of stone, kind of an ancient temple-y looking thing. Spoiler alert, kind of a little foreshadowing. So in the middle of the show, they introduce, I guess, they say the most evil woman ever, Satanico Pandemonium, who Salma Hayek coming out wearing a headdress and an albino snake crawling on her. And she does an exotic dance that lasts like 10 minutes. Why? Who knows? Just to establish what kind of place this is. Earlier in the movie, in one of the shootouts, Richie gets shot in the hand. So he's, got literally a hole in his hand. They wrap it up in duct tape. Doesn't seem very sanitary, but granted, I didn't go to medical school, so what do I know? The bouncer, the bartender, and the guy who worked the door, the barker, they come up and basically say, hey, you beat up our friend, now we're going to beat you up. So they start fighting. Richie gets stabbed in the hand. Richie flips out and stabs the other guy. They start shooting, boom, boom, boom. Salma Hayek sees Richie's bloody hand, Salma Hayek, Satanico Pandemonium, and she starts foaming at the mouth. And she changes, and she's a vampiric creature. She jumps on Richie, bites his neck. It's a bad thing. So Seth shoots her and shoots these other people. And at this, we think they're all dead. Richie's, I'm dying. He's dead. But then the people that they shot pop up. They're all vampires. Now we look around. All the dancing girls are vampires. So they start attacking all the truckers and the bikers. It is chaos. People start fighting back. Boom, boom, boom. Eventually, all the vampires inside the place are killed. And most of the bikers and truckers. The Fuller family, miraculously unscathed. Seth Gecko is still around. And they've picked up 2 new guys to hang out with, of people who are left. You've got a grizzly biker-looking dude wearing like a black t-shirt with no sleeves. He's got like a whip that he's whipping people with. He's got some sort of a gun contraption that pops out of his groin area. I can't explain it. His character is known as Sex Machine. So there you go. It's also this big, burly Vietnam vet guy smoking cigars all the time. They actually never say his name. I looked it up in the credits. His name is Frost. And he seems to have some sort of martial arts ability. At one point, a vampire is coming at him, and he reaches into the vampire's chest and pulls out its still beating heart. Boom, boom, boom. He's doing one of those kind of Bruce Lee moves. So he's got some skills. Later, he pulls out like a book of matches, and he kind of scratches it, and the whole book lights up, and he throws it on another vampire who's like doused in booze, and they go up. So they're tough guys. They're all trying to figure out what to do because they've managed to kill the vampires inside. A bunch of vampires crawling and scratching at the door, leading outside, so they can't go outside. First of all, they say, well, we need to get rid of all the bikers and truckers who are laying down, who've been killed by the vampires. We'll stick them in the heart, kill them, just to make sure. As they're doing this, Sex Machine gets bit on the arm. And in this movie, if you get bit anywhere by a vampire, you slowly become a vampire. So he's kind of in denial over it. He's wearing his jacket. He's trying to hide it. Denial, it's one of the stages of grief. I can't explain it. Later, Richie pops up. Now he's alive again. They stake him. Sex Machine reveals that he's a vampire. He starts attacking people. Not before he bites Frost. Turns him into a vampire. Frost is fighting the Sex Machine. Frost throws Sex Machine through a door. A bunch of vampires now pour into the place. I don't want to spoil everything. I don't want to give everything away, okay? Let's leave something up to the imagination in case you want to actually watch this movie on Netflix. As I said, George Clooney plays the lead, Seth Gecko, the bank robber. Up to this point, George Clooney is primarily known for being on ER, or, if you're a television historian like I am, he's also on Facts of Life. That's right. I have to say, also about this time, Quentin Tarantino had already done Reservoir Dogs. He'd already done Pulp Fiction. He won an Academy Award for the screenwriting there. Basically, he was working on Reservoir Dogs with this guy, Kurtzman. who had an idea of this kind of bank robbers go to Mexico and deal with Mexican vampire thing. And he paid Tarantino $1,300 to write the screenplay. In addition, he said, I'll do the special effects for Reservoir Dogs where the guy gets his ear. I'll take care of that. I'll give you a little cash. Write the screenplay for me. So he writes a screenplay. They're trying to figure out, what directors they should use. Tarantino didn't want to direct it because he wanted to focus on writing the screenplay and on his performance as Richie Gecko. They went to Rennie Harlan expressed interest. Tony Scott expressed interest. While they were working on before they started working on Pulp Fiction, Tarantino actually approached John Travolta for the role of Seth Gecko. He said, no, I'll take a pass, I'll do Pulp Fiction. A few other actors were approached to be Seth Gecko, including Christopher Walken. He also passed, a bunch of actors passed, before Clooney eventually agreed to do this. So Quentin Tarantino is kind of a sore spot for me, because ever since he came onto the scene and people took a look at him, people started to say, like, Kevin, you look a lot like Quentin Tarantino. You could be his stunt double. You could be his twin brother. It got so bad when people come up to me and say, hey, you know who you look like? I would just basically stop them and say, hey, if it's not Brad Pitt, keep it to yourself. Like, oh, no, you look like Quentin Tarantino, but you're kind of a more attractive. It's like, thank you for playing, but no thanks. No offense, Quentin, wherever you are. Very talented director, screenwriter. Model, not so much, in my humble opinion. So, very sad. Now, not a great actor, also. His performance in this movie especially is kind of creepy and off-putting, and not just in the ways that they were intended. It was just kind of like, couldn't they find a different actor to play this role? Very upsetting. The sad thing is, George Clooney, not much better, frankly. People know this about me. I took some drama classes back in the day, and in my opinion, I'm not James Lipton, but let me just say, in my opinion, you can tell if an actor's good or not through their eyes. Their eyes should reveal that there's some sort of thought process going on, not just what's my next line, but the real emotions and the feelings or the thoughts should in some way be reflected in the eyes. These guys, they're like a doll's eyes, if you know what I'm saying. Straight mannequin out there, a little wooden. Clooney, in his defense, has gotten better over the years, so that now he's actually a pretty good actor, in my opinion. Tarantino, the good thing is, he only gives himself cameos in his movies. He's not popping up in anybody else's movies, so that's a little something we can be happy for. Harvey Keitel plays the defrocked Baptist minister. His daughter is Juliette Lewis. You've got Machete in there playing the bartender. Machete. Danny Trejo, as he's known to his friends. You've got, who else is in this movie? You've got famed makeup artist extraordinaire. He also was an actor in the original Dawn of the Dead. Tom Savini. He plays the grisly biker sex machine. So, hey. Also, Frost was played by classic 70s exploitation star Fred Williamson, former AFL, NFL player. The Hammer, played safety for the Kansas City Chiefs. So there you go. It's a little something for everybody. Williamson was best known for his roles he was in MASH also, but he was also in Three the Hard Way with Jim Brown and Jim Kelly. He was also in such movies as Black Caesar. So it's an all-star cast. What can I tell you? Cheech pops up every now and again. Cheech actually plays 3 different roles in this movie. He plays the border crossing guy. He plays the barker who's working out in front of the bar, who's trying to cajole people to come in. He also plays George Clooney's contact at the end of the movie. So there you go. He's like Eddie Murphy. He plays multiple roles. The transformation is uncanny, if you know what I'm saying. Originally, this movie was supposed to be much more bloody and violent. There's one scene, I guess, where the vampire's stomach was supposed to open up and bite somebody. Tarantino thought it was even so disgusting he couldn't look at it. They cut a lot of this stuff out to get a better rating and also just to increase the pacing of the movie. They changed the vampire's blood from red, because there was just way too much red blood everywhere, to green. I guess they felt if it was green blood, it would be a little less disturbing. I can't explain it. This movie went on to do all right. It was #1 the week it came out. Second week, it was beaten by such movies as Mr. Holland's Opus and the Christian Slater vehicle, Bed of Roses. I'm sure you remember that one. Most of the critics felt like if you were in this for kind of a schlocky B-movie vampire thing, then this is the movie for you. If you're looking for, Pulp Fiction Part 2, you may be sorely disappointed. So, it just depends what you're looking for. I myself found it kind of uneven, because the first half of the movie is very vintage Tarantino. It's kind of a crime thing, there's a lot of snappy dialogue. But the moment they get to the bar in Mexico, it becomes a totally different thing. It becomes very campy, kind of comedic, but at the same time there's like a lot of blood and vampire violence in it. It's a tale of two movies, okay? When it's funny, it's actually surprisingly very funny. But overall, left a little bit to be desired, in my opinion. Salma Hayek played Satanico Pandemonium, the dancing evil vampire woman. And Robert Rodriguez approached her. Robert Rodriguez, who's the director, you might remember him. He directed El Mariachi, he directed Desperado, several other things since then. He approached Salma Hayek and said, hey, you want to be in the movie? She read the script. She's definitely afraid of snakes. So she was like, well, I'm not sure. I'll have to think about this. And he said, well, I got Madonna on the other phone, and she's ready to take the role. So better make a decision. So she agreed to do it, and actually had to go to therapy to get over her fear of snakes. Then she's doing her dance on the table. She really doesn't say much. Basically, there's no choreography for her. Robert Rodriguez just said, you know what? Do your thing. Feel the music, do your thing. So what are you going to do? She does her thing. It's worth the price of admission by itself. Okay? There you have it. This movie went on to spawn 2 direct-to-video sequels and a series. It's actually just premiered on the El Rey network, which is Robert Rodriguez's personal TV station. It's available on, Time Warner or something. So there you have it. There's all that good stuff. It currently has a 64% fresh on Rotten Tomatoes. I enjoyed it. It definitely appeals to my sense of B-movie campiness. It's by no means Tarantino's best movie, or Robert Rodriguez for that matter, but it's fun if you're into that sort of thing. So if you haven't seen it, it is still streaming instantly on Netflix. Rush out, check it out, let me know what you think. What else can I tell you about this movie? One more thing that I thought was kind of amusing. Evidently, Eric Estrada was originally supposed to be cast in this movie as George Clooney's contact in Mexico. For some reason, it didn't work out. I don't know. Eric Estrada's calendar was too full. I don't know. I can't explain it. One thing that, kind of your vampire purists had that might have been an issue with this movie is there really isn't, usually there's a Dracula type. There's the head evil vampire that you have to deal with. Other than Satanico Pandemonium, who gets killed relatively early in the movie, spoiler alert, there really isn't anybody. These vampires are much more like zombies, where there's just a swarming mob of them. Also, like those creatures from I Am Legend with Will Smith, what are you going to do? They just kind of swarm around. There's no, really not a lot of individual personality once the movie gets going. C'est la vie. What are you going to do? Next week, I'm going to move away from whatever kind of mixed up genre this is into kind of more traditional comedy, action, sports thing. It's the underrated Diggstown, a bit under the radar, if you will. Starring Louis Gossett Jr., James Woods, Heather Graham, Bruce Dern, the list goes on and on. It is still streaming instantly on Netflix, so rush out and see it. I highly recommend it. We'll talk about it next week. Also remember to go to our page on Facebook. Go ahead and like us, Original B Movie Club. Go to our page on YouTube. Subscribe. Follow us on Twitter at the B Movie Club. You can send us any favorite scenes, favorite quotes, questions, and comments, and we may talk about it on the show. Any movie suggestions? I'd love to hear what you got to say. As you know, I end every episode with a totally out of context quote, and here it is. Psychos do not burst into flame when sunlight hits them. I don't care how crazy they are. So there you have it. Thank you for joining us. Next week, Diggstown. Be well.